Welcome to the Bipan Chandra's India's Freedom Struggle. My name is Ashish and we shall be attending a new important lecture today. And the name of the lecture is the most important lecture of the pre-Gandhian politics that we have. That is the Swadeshi Movement. Dear friends, Swadeshi Movement is one such movement that was the motherboard of all the freedom movement that we had. In fact, you name an idea and it was there in the Swadeshi movement, and that is why I use the word motherboard. For example, the number one tool that Gandhi used to fight against the Britishers, the most prime tool that he used was boycott. He civil disobeyed the Britishers. He wanted to willfully non-cooperate he did not wish to cooperate with the Britishers. From where was he getting these ideas? The answer is Swadeshi Movement. And hence, I will waste no time in telling you what was its significance. The very first paragraph that Bipan Chandra says in his chapter, he says that Swadeshi Movement was not just a political movement. It was a social movement. It had social dimensions, that it had some social part to it. Second, it was also economical in the sense that it opened a new institution of economics. It made people self-reliant. Third, it was scientific also. There were some scientific parameters also, and we shall see in the upcoming lecture. We will see in some few minutes that how it was also inspiring scientific revolution of sorts in India, particularly in Bengal. And lastly, it was also cultural. The painting that you see here on your screens is the painting of Bharat Mata. For the first time, India as personified in the form of Bharat Mata was being imagined. And you know who painted it? The painter was Abindranath Tagore. Not Rabindranath, not R, but A. The nephew of great Rabindranath Tagore. And thereby signifying a very important cultural dimension of Swadeshi Movement. So let us see that how this Swadeshi Movement was all of this and not just about politics. Now, the next point, that why Swadeshi? Why this Swadeshi Movement itself was going on? The answer is Partition of Bengal. Bengal got partitioned, and that was the only reason that people of Bengal wanted to show Britishers that they are not just receivers of decisions. Let's suppose Britishers are taking a decision and I'm just sitting and watching like a lame duck to be taken away by Britishers. No. If you are partitioning my state, then I shall definitely revolt. And the name of the revolt is Swadeshi Movement. So why Partition of Bengal was happening? See, Lord Curzon, who was the viceroy at that point of time, he was attempting to divide the Bengal presidency because of numerous reasons. There were a number of reasons. But let us see how the division of Bengal was taking place. As you can see on your screens, East and West Bengal was being divided. Now, when it was being divided along those red lines, as you can see on your screens, the Eastern Bengal part, the eastern frontier part, had majority of Muslim population. Cumulatively, like together, Bengal had around 80 million population. That was a big province. That was a big presidency, a very big administrative area to be governed. Even today, Uttar Pradesh is one of the most important and the most populous states of India, representing about 18% of India's population. And and you can also ask people who are there in Uttar Pradesh in the governance. They will tell you that the state is very big yet, and it is very tough to administer. So you can imagine that sort of time. At that point of time, it was Bengal at that very populous state. But the state was not divided on the lines of easing administration. The division was very clever, and understand this clever division. East Bengal was divided in such a way that majority will be Muslims. So for example, in Eastern Bengal, the majority were 18 million population, 18 million in number were Muslims, and the total population of Eastern Bengal was 31. So out of 31, 18 were Muslims. So you can do the maths very well. It was more than 50%, as simple as that. And look at West Bengal, or the present day also Paschim Bengal that we have, or the West Bengal that we had. The population was so divided that the total population was 54 million, and out of that the Muslims were just 9. So you can understand that overwhelming majority, just around 12% were the Muslim population, and the overwhelming majority were of Hindus or other non-Muslim population. Now that made the divisions entirely communal in 9. Everybody stood up and took this partition seriously. That this was not a mere administrative change. This was not an innocent change. It was done with a very clear motive. And what was the motive? Here you are seeing Lord Curzon himself, and we shall see the official reason as well as the real reason. Let us see both the reasons. Now, Lord Curzon gave many official reasons. He wrote and he spoke a lot. He gave a lot of speeches out there while partitioning Bengal. And he told that the ease of administration is number one reason, that we want Bengal to be administered with a lot of ease. As simple as that. Because it is a very big province. We are administering more than 80 million people out there. And you know, at that point of time, it was a big population. We are talking about 1905. Today also, 80 million population is a very big number. So yes, people took it fine that, okay, this may be the official reason, but you know what? I just showed you the map, right? And you can very well understand that the answer was not that innocent. Britishers were not that innocent. They were very clever, right? Basically, the number one reason which was out there was to weaken Indian nationalism. The number one reason. And how do you say so? Because see, when Bengal is united, nationalism was strong. Most of the leaders were coming from Bengal. In fact, the first president of Indian National Congress was a Bengali, right? Bipan Chandra Banerjee. So, nationalism in Bengal was very strong. Basically, they wanted to divide Bengal. Basically, they wanted to weaken Calcutta because it was the seat of the government and people were very, active out there. Second, they also wanted to sow the seeds of communalization in Indian politics because the division was on the line of Hindus and Muslims. The division was on what you call as communal line. And hence, they wanted to create a false sense of state belonging to some particular community or religion. Now, when you do that, you open a Pandora's box. You open a can of worms, if I may say so. You give air to the birth of religion-based or identity-based politics. And this is what Britishers wanted. They wanted to weaken the Congress by saying that Congress only cares for the Hindus. And what would the Muslims get? The Muslims will get Eastern Bengal because they should also get their own provinces. Because Congress is not there to care for the Muslims. There should be some institution to care for the Muslims. There was one more reason. And the reason was very economical. See, the Eastern Bengal province, the province of Eastern Bengal, also had areas of Assam districts where tea plantations were coming up. Now, when there was a tea plantation out there in Assam, Britishers wanted to hide a lot of wrongdoings that was happening in tea plantation. You may ask, what were the wrongdoings which were happening in tea plantations? See, the tea plants in India, the big tea gardens in India, were infamous and were notorious for employing women and children for more than prescribed hours. So let's say their working hours used to be more than 10 hours, 12 hours, 13 hours. Now that was beneficial to the tea planters who were mostly Britishers, but it came to the attention of Bengali nationalists and they wanted regulations on those tea planters. Now, when Bengal would have been divided, let's suppose East Bengal would have been divided with its own center in Dhaka, because East Bengal's capital was considered to be Dhaka or Decca. Bengali nationalists will not pay attention to the issues of tea planters of Assam. So basically, they also wanted to benefit indirectly the tea planters of Assam, and hence they wanted to divide Bengal. So that was also the third reason. So please also remember that. That was the inherent reason. But how do we come to know about it? That this was the real reason, right? Actually, Lord Curzon himself says it to the historians. You see, history is a very interesting subject. Everything comes in history. Even politics comes in history. Economics also comes in history. Constitution or constitutional studies also comes in history. So history is basically study of everything which has happened in past. So in past, Lord Curzon wrote a letter to his Secretary of State in London. And I wanted to show you that letter. He writes to H.H. Risley. H.H. Risley was the Secretary of State at that point of time. He writes, and see, this letter tells you everything. Bengal united is a power. Lord Curzon is saying to his Secretary of State. It's a Bengal united is a power. Bengal divided will pull in several different ways. Then he says, this is what Congress leaders feel. He's saying this, that this is what Congress leaders feel. Their apprehensions are perfectly correct. He's saying that Congress leaders, whatever they are feeling, it is correct. Bengal divided will pull in different ways. One of our main objectives is to split up and thereby weaken a solid body of opposition to our rule. And hence he is talking about the nationalism or nationalistic activities that used to take place in Bengal. This is nonetheless the word from the horse's mouth. Himself, Lord Curzon is saying this because he wrote this letter to H.H. Risley, who was the Secretary of State at that point of time. What more proof do you need that this was the real reason? But nevertheless, that is when the Swadeshi movement started. And before I even begin with Swadeshi movement, I want to tell you your movement towards achieving the goal that you have desired for. I know that most of whom you are watching are very serious, diligent students who want to prepare and see themselves as Indian administrative officers or Indian Foreign Service officer or Indian Police Service or Indian Revenue Service, so on and so forth. And I know one stepping stone towards this is to prepare for prelims, mains, and of course your finally interview. That is why StudyIQ has brought all the three stages coming together at one slot for you. Prelims to interview batch. This prelims to interview batch is very unique because we don't just prepare you for prelims, we also prepare you for mains. For example, you will study with us for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months while preparing for prelims. But then most of you, after doing that, you go back home or the classes modules end. But that is not where we end. We will call you back again when you have cleared prelims. The moment you clear prelims, we'll call you at our Delhi campuses at no added cost, in the same cost. We'll provide you with lodging, staying and boarding, and you and I will prepare. We all will prepare with the best faculties available for the next 4 months towards mains. So rigorous offline classes for mains are also included in it. It is called as MRP. Mains Residential Program. So this is not just prelims plus interview, but this is also mains residential program so that you can study with us day in and day out. So that the idea is to see your marks in the final interview list. And when the interview call comes, it's a proud moment for all of us. But when it comes, you'll be ready again. We'll teach you, of course, how to answer questions in interviews, but at the same point of time, how to prepare your draft, how to prepare your DAF, right? Detailed application form that you are supposed to fill before going to face the interview board of UPSC. So I want all of you to cross through that stages, not just be stuck at prelims. And if you don't want to be that, if you want to clear your examinations in the very first year, take this class and take these preparations very seriously. Now, this is the best that we have for you, provided you will get this benefit only when you use the code ASHLIVE. Use this code ASHLIVE, gain maximum discount. If you don't use this code ASHLIVE, the prices hover around 40,000 or something. Don't fall into that. Use the code ASHLIVE, get maximum discounts, after getting also discounts, the faculty codes is where you will get the most discounts, and particularly the Ash Live code, right? So use this code, don't forget it, ASH LIVE in the capital blocks. Claim it, and also claim the right to be selected. Claim your right to go towards interview, to face mains, to write that paper. Answer writing, module formations or mentorships, they're all a part of our program. But what is most enterprising part of it is that you will be with us in the offline mode, and I would love it more than anything else, right? Okay, so now coming towards Swadeshi, the movement begins. Now, when people got a whiff that partition will happen, that people got to know that partition will happen, then only the movement began shaping up. In 1903, there were people, and please note these people names: Surendranath Banerjee, Prithvish Chandra Ray, K.K. Mitra, Krishna Kumar Mitra, a very important person who started the paper Sanjeevani. These people started. Surendranath Banerjee, an ex-civil servant of India. He resigned. In fact, he was a person you will know most of all for Swadeshi movement. They all started making plans for the movement. 500 protest meetings were held in Decca, along with 70,000 people writing and signing protest letters. 70,000 people at that point of time, even before partition could be announced, they wrote protest letters that please, you cannot divide Bengal, we are united. And this was happening in Dhaka. Dhaka is where Eastern Bengal part is there. Not just that, newspapers started coming up at that point of time. Bengali himself, launched by Surendranath Banerjee. Hitabdi, Sanjeevani, I told you, launched by K.K. Mitra. These newspapers were used to tell people to come together, that now is the time for movement. I've used a picture here of National Handlooms Day, 7th of August. This is for a very particular purpose. I don't use pictures unless and until it is relevant. And I'll tell you how our National Handlooms Day, which is celebrated on 7th of August, is related to Swadeshi movement. By the way, there was a question on this in the prelims paper. More on it, but I'll tell you why. Basically, Bengal partition was announced on 19th of July, 1905. And after that, there was the first Calcutta town hall meeting that happened on 7th of August. This meeting was taken up by Surendranath Banerjee himself. Now, when Surendranath Banerjee took this meeting on 7th of August, it was considered as the first protest mass movement that started the Swadeshi Andolan. Now, that is why Government of India in 2015 announced that 7th of August will be celebrated as National Handlooms Day. Why National Handlooms Day only? Is the fact that this was the day Swadeshi movement was launched. This was a day when we took pledge that we shall boycott British-made goods, we shall boycott foreign-made goods, and we shall wear Indian-made clothes. I'll show you very interesting pamphlets. I'm sure you'll be delighted to see them. Let's wait for some few moments and I'll show you those pamphlets. Now, here is one pamphlet of Gupta Chai or Gupta's tea. I've taken all of this from the British archive and they have preserved it well for us. So kudos to them. It says, this pamphlet says, support your own country. This is map of India, right? Or this is like United India map which they had. And people are, putting this map up on the walls. And it says, Gupta's tea, classic Gupta tea made from quintessential Indian tea leaves. It is saying that it is only made from Indian tea leaves. It is not made by British. It is not made by British planters also. It is by Indian planters of Indian chai, Swadeshi, made by Indians for Indians, something like that. Or look at this advertisement, for example. Support home industry, use Assam silk, and they are telling the varieties of silk like ND and Muga silk. I'm sure that those who are preparing, they know that there are different varieties of silk also, right? Seri silk or Munga silk, right? Mulberry variety of silk, etc. And then it says that please book your order for Assam Valley Trading Company Limited, a well-known Swadeshi concern. It is saying this, that my company, that this is an advertisement in a newspaper. And it is saying that this is a well-known Swadeshi concern with an authored capital on 1 lakh rupees, Guwahati or Tezpur, whatever it is. Authorized capital, sorry. Authorized capital. That means it is saying that we have an authorized capital, like we are well-to-do company. We are not just, chalta firta company that will start today and end tomorrow. So he's saying that we have an authorized capital of around 1 lakh rupees, but we are also a Swadeshi company. So please buy the silk from us. Look at this. If you are earnest in our Swadeshi movement, please encourage the Assam Bengal stores. Remember, at that point of time, Assam was not separate from Bengal, right? It is today that we are seeing Assam being separated, but Assam was also part of Bengal, right? So he's saying that please encourage Assam Bengal stores, 2 Lal Bazar Street, Calcutta, that's the address. Then it says that fine collection of our Indian goods. It is writing in capitals, very marked capital words. Fine collection of our Indian goods, trunks, towels, banyans, Assam silk, tea, soap, perfume, hair oil, cigars, cigarettes, chutneys, etc. And as always, available at cheapest price. Trial is solicited, that you can come and try our products, completely Swadeshi. And by my God, it's a very good shop because it is offering everything out there. Okay. Lastly, this one was my favorite and I included it. An appeal to our countrymen: use our flour. That means atta chakki. Please use our flour, which is produced under entire supervision of our countrymen, and encourage your Swadeshi movement and Swadeshi industry. All qualities of flour, atta, suji, etc. can be had at our mills at comparatively cheaper prices situated at Hathi Bagan, Raj Bagan, Goa Bagan, Ulta Bagan, Mani Kotla, Narikela, Nundan Bagh, Kola Bagan, Sikandar Bagan, etc. etc. Now these are some localities of Calcutta. I'm sure students from Calcutta must be telling me this. Okay, these are the localities. And then it says Calcutta Swadeshi Flour Mills Association. In fact, the Flour Mills Association started naming themselves in the name of Swadeshi movement. If this is not pure independence, nothing is. This was economic assertion that we are coming on our own. Now we want to boycott Britishers at every walk of life. And that is the best version of Swadeshi movement, if not that what is. And here you are seeing the picture of Surendranath Banerjee. Now, Swadeshi was also being born with the concept not just of boycott of British goods, but also to make colonialists pay for their divisive strategy. Why would I boycott? Because I want the colonialists to be paying for what they did to us. So, Surendranath Banerjee started his boycott with the name of boycott of Manchester clothes. He said that boycott Manchester clothes. Manchester was a town in London that was famous for cotton textile mills. So he said that boycott Manchester clothes and Liverpool salt. From Liverpool, we used to import salt. So he said boycott Manchester cloth, boycott Liverpool salt. Second, he started with, and it was an almost simultaneous start of singing of Bande Matram. Now you must understand that when did Bande Matram become our national song, right? After independence, of course, but from when did it seep into our national freedom movement? When did it come to our national freedom movement? It was with Swadeshi movement, right? So Swadeshi movement, people started, singing Bande Matram. Bipan Chandra says in his chapter that, people used to take bath in Ganga. And after taking bath in Ganga, they used to come follow a Prabhat Feri, where people would, Prabhat Feri means a morning walk after bathing and adulations. You just visit a place of worship, maybe a temple, maybe a mosque, and then start singing Bande Matram. Now, Bande Matram was taken from Bankim Chandra Chatterjee's famous novel called Anand Mat. Anand Mat was written on the matters of Sannyasi rebellion. So it was a novel out there which was written on a previous rebellion, but people started singing Bande Matram. Then people also started tying rakhis on each other's hand. That was a very noble gesture. They wanted to say that people of East and West Bengal are the same. They are not different. And there was one person, a very famous personality related to Swadeshi movement called as Abdul Rasool of Barisal conference, and he said very important statement which I wanted to rephrase it here. He said that, look, what we could not have accomplished in 100 years, the great disaster, that is the partition of Bengal, has done it for us in 6-7 months. What was he saying? He was saying that we became united on the question of partition. That we were not being able to unite for almost 6-7 years, even hundreds of years it took us. You know, Britishers were there in India from 1750s. In fact, they were there as traders in India from 1600. So this is what he's saying, that look, Britishers were there for a very long period of time, but it took partition of Bengal to jolt us all together. So what could not have been done for the last 50-100 years, this partition of Bengal did in the last 6-7 months. Its fruits have been great national movement known as the Swadeshi movement. He's saying that Swadeshi movement is an awakening, is an alarm call for all of us. Now there were some new techniques also for the boycott, and you have to see it very clearly. What were the new techniques? Apart from the foreign goods boycott, after boycotting the foreign goods, I'll tell you the individual, I'll tell you the personality who's on the board here. But let me tell you about the new techniques out there. So for example, apart from boycott of, just foreign goods, you also boycotted schools, that is government schools, British-made schools, colleges, courts. You didn't want to go to the courts. Even people resigned from their government services. That was the highest sacrifice, by the way, at that point of time. People were having samitis, court of volunteer. Courts of volunteers means these were the people who used to go to villages and arbitrate cases. Let's suppose if I have a dispute with my neighbor, and if I'm boycotting courts, then how do I settle? If I have a dispute with my planter, and if I don't go to police, how do I settle my matter? That would be settled by a very famous Swadesh Bandhav Samiti of Ashwini Kumar Dutt, whose picture you are seeing here. Ashwini Kumar Dutt belonged to Barisal. He was a school teacher out there, but he made it sure, in fact, this is very successful example of how arbitration works, is that he solved, and it is said that this Samiti solved 523 disputes in 89 arbitration committees. So whenever there was a dispute, he would form a committee and the question would get solved within 3 or 4 months. That said, that people were accepting a parallel organization other than the government. They didn't want to go to the government. They wanted to sell the take the matters within themselves, settle it within themselves. Popular festivals also became a rallying point on people congregations. For example, people started, collecting together on the occasions like Durga Puja or Durga Pujo as it is called in West Bengal, or Jatras. Jatras are very important folk theatres. It's a moving theatre that used to happen in West Bengal and still very popular. And Jatras used to disseminate the messages of Swadeshi movement all over the rural parts of Bengal. One very important part of Swadeshi movement was also Atma Shakti, self-reliance. The presence of Atma Shakti was a very important part. How? Because in the terms of social reform, it was working. As I told you in the starting of the slide, Swadeshi movement is not just about politics. Swadeshi movement is also social. Swadeshi movement is also economical. Swadeshi movement is also cultural, scientific. It's full of different colors. That is Swadeshi movement for you. It's a very beautiful and it's a very successful example of national movement. So what happened, that people wanted to feel confident for themselves, and that is why Atma Shakti, the word self-confidence, comes into picture. So the leaders of the Swadeshi movement wanted to have socio-religious reforms within their society without the help of Britishers. So this was also working in the terms of caste oppressions, dowry prohibition, or in the terms of education. Now, particularly in the field of education, very important institutions were opened up, and that is why I have a picture of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore out there. It was at this point of time that Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore set up his Shanti Niketan, which became an alternative means of imparting education through practices. Gurudev used to say that classrooms should not be located inside a brick and mortar. It should not be inside buildings. Classrooms should be in free open air, near a pond, on a garden, just beneath a tree, where people can listen to the music, birds chirping, squirrels strolling, and moonlight dance. So something like that. So that was a different set of teaching that he wanted to envisage, and I would very, very much love it, by the way. But anyways, Bengal National College was also being set up. Other than Shantiniketan, Bengal National College was also being set up, with its first principal being Aurobindo. Or National Council of Education was coming up to impart scientific technical education on nationalistic lines. So they didn't want to go to the government's institutions for that. One very particular institute was Bengal Technical Institute, which wanted to send students to Japan to learn advanced engineering. So all of these experiments were happening in the field of Swadeshi movement. But for example, cultural economic dimensions. For example, Bengal chemical factory was being opened up by P.C. Ray. Prithvish Chandra Ray, a very important person whose picture I'm showing you here. He was the father of Indian chemistry. Not just that, he opened a factory also, which is called as Bengal Chemical Factory, which became very successful because he was a chemist, and he showed to the Indian people that, look, I'm not just an academic, I can also be an entrepreneur. I can also be a businessman, and that too a successful one. Rabindranath Tagore started with his writing of Amar Sonar Bangla. Amar Sonar Bangla is a poem which has now been adopted by Bangladesh to be their national anthem. He also wrote many novels like Ghare Bahire also at this point of time. Rabindranath Tagore, very famous painter, the nephew of Rabindranath Tagore, whose painting I showed you, Bharat Mata, in the starting of the Swadeshi movement, broke Victorian age paintings, and he brought a new whole corp of Indian painters. People like Nandalal Bose, Rabindranath Tagore were painting Indian depictions for the first time, right? Here is the Bharat Mata painting again for you, and Mr. Rabindranath Tagore. Or for that matter, a very important individual called as J.C. Bose, Jagdish Chandra Bose, a person who told us that even plants have sonic rays, even plants can speak to each other. Very recently it has been confirmed. He had his deep research in radio waves, shortwave radio waves, and here is the most important contributions in the scientific, cultural, business arena of the Swadeshi movement. But somewhere the Swadeshi movement also had its drawback. Like every great movement or every great thing, all good things also come to an end. Of course, the Swadeshi movement also had its drawback. What were those drawbacks? Now, Bipan Chandra says that Swadeshi movement didn't pay attention to the peasant issue. And particularly he says the peasant issue of Eastern Bengal. East Bengal people had a lot of issues with their planters. Now, East Bengal, the peasants were, or the tenants were Muslims, but their masters were Hindus. Now, that created tension between them, saying that the tenants did not get full occupancy rights. They did not get their share of crops, which they were supposed to get, and they ended up paying more taxes that was demanded to them. So, Swadeshi movement did not take the issue or the cause of planters or the peasants out there. Second, it says that it was not able to take the support of Muslims. All India Muslim League was specifically set up at this point of time. All India Muslim League was set up in 1906, just 1 year after the partition of Bengal. And it was set up with the help of Britishers under the leadership of Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka. Now, Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka was a Nawab at that point of time of the Deccan area, of the Dhaka area, I beg your pardon, and who benefited a lot from the partition, because, Dhaka would certainly rise up in eminence because it was becoming a capital. And it was basically helped, from the backside by the Britishers, because they wanted one, religion-based party to stand up in opposition to Congress. the third reason that why the movement was failing was division within the Congress. In 1905, Bengal got partitioned, and in 1907, Congress got partitioned. 1907, there was a split in Congress, and you all know about the split, that it happened because of the shift or the tensions between the moderates and the extremist factions of the Congress. The moderate factions wanted to help Swadeshi movement, but they didn't want the Swadeshi movement to spread outside Bengal. Particularly in 1906, Dadabhai Naoroji, who was leading the Calcutta session, said that we accept Swadeshi movement as one of the most important agendas of the Indian National Congress, but we don't want Swadeshi movement to spread outside Calcutta or to spread outside Bengal, because it is an issue of Bengal. It should remain situated with Bengal. But Swadeshi movement spread far out. Lala Lajpat Rai in Punjab, Ajit Singh in Punjab were related to Swadeshi movement. Syed Hyder Raza in Delhi was leading the Swadeshi movement. V.O. Chidambaram Pillai in South India was leading Swadeshi movement. Tilak was also speaking a lot about Swadeshi movement. So Swadeshi movement was not confined to Bengal itself. But the moderates in Congress wanted it to be confined to Bengal. They feared Britishers. They didn't want Britishers to be upset about it. So because of this question, there was a split in the Congress itself. And last, heavy repression by the government. Government was not silent. It is said that between 1907 and 08, many leaders were deported or they were arrested. Important A-listers like Ashwini Kumar Dutt, K.K. Mitra, who was leading the Sanjeevani paper, Tilak was also sentenced to 6 years imprisonment. Ajit Singh, Lala Lajpat Rai, they were all arrested. So the leaders who could lead the revolt were not there. Here you are seeing the picture of Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka. Okay. And here is the picture of the split of the Surat session where Tilak is out there, and unfortunate split happened. The last few reasons of the drawback or why the movement stopped. Starting of underground movements and revolutionary activism. The Bengal Swadeshi movement also gave birth to some covert operations. See, people were not just happy with protest masses, people not just happy with boycotts that was going on, people also wanted to give an answer by force. And that was seen in the underground movement or the revolutionary activity movement that took place just after 1906. So from 1906 onward, there were a series of revolutionary movements that was happening. And we shall see that in this upcoming chapter, in the next chapter out there. Not just that, the reason why Swadeshi movement started, that reason was somewhere evaporating. See, Swadeshi movement was not that properly organized. This is what Bipan Chandra says. Bipan Chandra says that boycott was an important tool of Swadeshi movement, but people didn't know how to use boycott as a tool. For example, he said that Swadeshi movement lacked the Gandhian strategy of passive resistance. That how Gandhiji had his satyagraha. He was using the boycott, but he was also using boycott with satyagraha, saying that passive resistance, that we will resist the British forces, but we will not act in a violent way. The non-violence was a theme which was missing from Swadeshi movement. Swadeshi movement was also violent. And we shall see in the part 2 of this chapter when it was becoming violent. It was not disciplined. The cadres were not disciplined and focused. And lastly, the 1911 Darbar. Here is the picture of the 1911 Darbar, where the King of England, King George V, came to India and cancelled the partition. He said that no more partition. The whole reason why Swadeshi movement started, the reason pettered out, or the reason was cancelled. He said that Bengal will not be partitioned now. That was one thing that he did. And the second thing is that he shifted the capital itself. So if you can't, harm people, if you can't achieve objectives, let's shift the goal. This is what happened. See, Bengal was a hotbed. Bengal was the capital of India. And if you cannot partition the capital of India, and if you cannot weaken nationalism, let's shift the capital. So he shifted the capital from Bengal to Delhi in 1911. The moment capital was shifted, the entire reason for Swadeshi only dissolved away. But the question is why he shifted capital. This is the view of Raisina Hill. This is the view when Rashtrapati Bhavan was constructed. This is a picture of 1931 when finally it was constructed. You can see the deserted Delhi out there. It's all deserted. When Delhi was chosen, this seat was chosen, Raisina Hill was chosen, just in straight line of this Raisina Hill, just in straight line you have India Gate, but beyond India Gate, here on these lines, on these very far ramparts, you could see Purana Killa, you could see Chandni Chowk, old Mughal authorities. They wanted to show that Mughals were old rulers, we are the new rulers. We are replacing Mughals now, and that is why Delhi. We are the new rulers, and that is why Raisina Hill. So I hope you can connect the dots. I hope you enjoyed the session. I hope you liked reading Swadeshi Movement. Now go back, read the chapter again, enjoy it for yourself, make the pointers, right? Point it out in your notes. And finally, don't forget to join the courses. If you want, you can say that, sir, you are anyways teaching us, but I know you have to understand answer writing. You have to understand linkages between subjects. Now, in the YouTube session, I just teach you one book, right? But what about other books? For example, the best chapters on Swadeshi Movement is actually in Sumit Sarkar, and that I'll be teaching you in the class, right? In class, I'll not just be combining just one book, but 5, 6, 7 different books coming together and then being taught to you, so that you have the most comprehensive knowledge available. We give you notes, right? We give you pre-handwritten notes. We give you the note texts, etc. We provide you with mentors so that you have a holistic preparation. This is to aid your preparation, but the real preparation begins with a dedicated classroom framework. Anybody who says no is fooling themselves. Education is costly, but try ignorance. Ignorance is more costly than that. In fact, it will cost you more than anything else. In fact, we have tried to make this the most affordable for you. So use this opportunity. Don't let it pass away. It is till 11th of September. Use this. Take the maximum discount available to you. Join our courses, and we shall see you in the classes. If you have any other doubt related to this, please connect with me on my Telegram channel. Also, if you want to download the latest PPTs related to the Swadeshi Movement, I shall be posting them on my Telegram channel, UPSC History Sheeters or UPSC History with Ashish, and I'll be very happy to see you on the growing community. Also, if you have any other questions related to history or in general UPSC preparations, I'll be more than happy to solve it. Please join with me on the dedicated channel for it and use the code ASHLIVE for any kind of courses that you want to take on StudyIQ. Thank you.